Good evening and welcome to Loose Links this evening. Come along and enjoy us for the next hour as we talk about three topics. We discuss the lovely Jake Daniels and his recent coming about, as his experience of being a footballer in the Premier League. Our discussions will then move on to discuss two factors, a story of two friends that have been strongly reunited after many, many years. And then we end with a story and a discussion around a piece of theatre, a modern contemporary piece of theatre of absolute beauty, full English. Sit back, have a cup of tea and enjoy the next hour. Good evening. I'm your host tonight. I'm Mike Curtis, and joining me on panel tonight is the lovely Kerry.
Hello.
Hello. We've got Rachel.
Oh, sorry. Hiya.
And last but certainly not least, we've got the lovely Claire. Oh, we're all back again. It only feels like a blink of an eye, Rachel and Claire, from last week. I don't know about yourself. Have you had a good week, ladies?
I don't think I've slept. It was just a blink.
Well, thank you for coming along and joining me tonight. And of course, our few of the audience, I hope they're having a cup of tea or a glass of wine, whatever their tipple is at this time of night, and they're comfy to join the show. So our first topic this evening, ladies, is Jake Daniels and his coming out story. Hate the word coming out, which we'll come on and discuss shortly. On the 16th of May with his interview with Sky News. I don't know if you've heard much about the story, ladies, but the quote from the interview itself is really clear, in which Jake discussed, "I'm ready to be myself, be free and be confident." He's been titled as one of the first male professional footballers to come out gay since the 1990s, and has been highlighted by the Prime Minister as an inspiration to us all. So before we come on to discuss his clip, what's your thoughts and feelings? Do you feel it's an inspirational topic?
It is, isn't it? He's a young man. I think he's very inspirational for other young adults in a similar situation.
At least, like you say, especially at that age, you wouldn't have thought somebody in the professional eye as well, and so young, would want to come out, as the wording is. I think it's remarkable.
It's incredible pressure, though, for somebody such a young age, of pressure to actually identify themselves as a certain way of life that they're going to lead. And quite honestly, it's nobody's business, is it? But the pressure of being in the public eye like that must have been enormous.
Well, let's just take a minute to have a look at his interview with Sky News.
And I've just processed every day of just about how I want to do it, when I want to do it, and I think now is just the right time to do it. I feel like I'm ready to tell people about my story. I want people to know the real me, and lying all the time just isn't what I've wanted to do, and it has been a struggle, but now I just do feel like I'm ready to be myself, be free, and just be confident with it all.
Talk us through your journey. When did you realise you were gay, and what impact has that had on your football?
Can't really put a date on it, but I'd say maybe 5 or 6. It has been quite a while. At that age, you don't really think of football and being gay doesn't mix. So all the way through my life, I was like, yeah, it's fine. You'll get a girlfriend when you're older and you'll change and it'll be fine. And then as you do get older, you realise you just can't, and it's just something that you won't be able to do. So I've had girlfriends in the past to try and make all my mates think that I'm straight, and it was just a massive cover-up. So it has been a struggle. And then in school, everyone always used to ask me, "You sure you're not gay?" And it was like, no, I'm not, because I wasn't ready, but just don't want to lie anymore.
Did you feel as though you might need to hide who you are to become a professional footballer?
Yeah, I think so, obviously, because there's no one out. Felt like I do need to hide it and wait until I've retired to maybe come out, but I just knew that that's just such a long time of just lying and not being able to have what I want.
Has it impacted on your mental health at all?
Yeah, it did impact on my mental health, but you know, I just came across that just because I knew that what I wanted, and it was just a short period of time of just overthinking and stress and just a lot that came to my mind at once. But now, you know, it's just all gone and I'm just confident and happy to be myself finally.
How important have your family been through this? Was it a huge sense of relief when you told your family?
Yeah, definitely. My mum, my sister, obviously I live with them, and they were like, yeah, we already knew. So they already have an idea of it. And then when we told my whole family, you know, I was quite scared with like the older generation, just because I didn't know how they would react. But everyone's been so supportive. I've had messages here, there, and everywhere, just saying, you know, we're proud and we're supportive. So yeah, it's been amazing. The day.
What do we think? I think it's absolutely heartbreaking.
It
What
is.
a lovely young man.
But what I will say, he's done this at 17. He's not going to be in torture for years and years to come. The footballers and the sports personalities that we see today that have come out in the past, which are very few and far between, they've been older, a lot older. And it makes you think to yourself, well, have they done that for a reason? Do they think they wouldn't have had a career if they came out first?
See, I really struggle with the concept of coming out as a gay man. I really, really hate the term. I think it's old-fashioned, and I think it's I understand where it comes from and this idea of celebration. But you know, if I'm really honest with you, I've got lots of friends that are heterosexual, and at no point in their life do they have to disclose who they are. You know, and it makes me really think. You know, if people from the LGBT plus community come out, would we say to our heterosexual friends and colleagues, are you going in? What is this term? What are they coming out to? You know, why do we have to have this celebration of it in that sense? And I'm not confusing gay rights and what this young man has done and the whole shebang, but I just think, my God, as I watch the interview, I feel really upset. At 17, he's talking about discussing it when he retires.
I think what I really took from his interview then is, you know, he's still a very young man to come out and, you know, be open about his sexuality. He's got support of his family, which he's just said. But, you know, maybe if he did come out when he was older, it'd be more acceptable. Because what he's just said then is when he's at school, he was pretending he was straight. You know, and he had a girlfriend. Maybe that's the age that needs to be educated more. And I think with him doing this, or any celebrity, or anyone in the public eye, should I say, you know, is showing people that actually there is support out there, and they don't need to wait till they're in the 50s, 60s, wherever it may be, with whatever the circumstances are. I think he's set a precedent, and people that do continue to do this are changing the way forward, aren't they, for the future? We're not going to be stuck in the past with how it was perceived. So yeah, hats off to him. I think he's a very confident, and he's done it when he's ready, and that's the biggest thing. Somebody might not be ready when they're 17, it might be in the 20s, it might be in the 30s.
Claire, I mean, you know, we've had lots of conversations, haven't we, about footballers, and I don't want to blur the two. And money talks is the hashtag for yourself, money talks. But do you feel there's a stigma for sportsmen in general to hide their sexuality, or any sports professional?
Personally, yeah, I do, because they are supposedly this icon, you know, that's supposed to be on a pedestal, and they get everybody you know, bowing down to them, and especially footballers. I mean, you know, years, you know, the Maradonas and all the other famous footballers. So I think for them, whatever sexuality they are, but especially, you know, if they are gay, they want to keep that, because they want to be, not them, they want to, probably their managers and that want to portray them as being this macho, not that if you are gay, you're not macho, person, and you get all the girls following you and that. So you know, with Jake, he probably thinks, you know, at 17, it's like, wow. You know, and one of his comments was he wants to be free. So he probably doesn't want all the girls, the women chasing him and that, you know. So he's took all, like I say, for 17, that just must be absolutely a phenomenon.
I mean,
you know,
there's this thing, isn't there, in sports where you have to have this, like, this masculinity phase for men, you know, and it comes back to our Olympics and the way that we're viewed, you know, it goes back in time, doesn't it, to sort of the Greeks and the way in which they were these Odysseus gladiators, etc., masculinity and strength. But actually, I think we blur the two between sexuality and masculinity, and actually you can have very masculine, strong, confident men, and you might have more men that are passive, or, you know, we're talking about gay people specifically, but it's the same for, you know, people that are transgender or gender fluid, that people are put into brackets. And I just really find it quite sad that at 22, you know, not 22, the year 2022, that we're still having these discussions. I mean, Rachel, you know, talk to me a little bit, and you know, what was life like previously? What's your memories as a child, or, you know, Claire or Kerry, you know, of gay people around you? I'm conscious we're all from different areas, and, you know, Kerry originally from, you know, from outside of Lincoln. I'm not going to try and do the Scylla impression that Nick normally does, because that would be quite bad for us all. But, you know, what's your thoughts and feelings, ladies, as you've grown up? Have you seen the difference?
Well, yeah, I have definitely seen a difference, because it's not that it wasn't talked about, but we knew, you know, what like Freddie Mercury, when I was younger, Freddie Mercury, Kenny Everett, I didn't look at them on TV, didn't look at them on or listen to their music thinking they are gay men. You do now, though, you do, because it's become prominent. I enjoyed their music. I enjoyed what they brought to the table as such. You know, what their skill was. Now it's so, because I'm not gay, I don't know what exactly it would feel like being like that, and having to probably hide if you had to hide. And I'm pleased that it's come to the point now where people don't have to hide, because these are people who are just people. They are the you know, and it's nobody's business, for one thing, what your sexuality is. It's nobody's business what my sexuality is to anybody else, to any of you three. But we just did not categorize people into a gay singer, a gay TV presenter, a gay. But we do now. They say, oh, he's gay, she's gay. But why? It just went totally over the tops of our heads before, and I don't know whether. Is that a good thing?
Kerry, what's your thoughts on that, Claire?
Yeah, well, like I say, I can't really, because my brain at my age trying to remember last week, so let alone remember when I was my childhood. But like what Rachel was saying, I think more so for the TV. I mean, me going back to my childhood, I was very naive anyway. You know, the old sayings, you know, you used to go in when the street lights come on and all that. You know, life was so different then. So I don't think, like today, I think people are more judgmental, that they come out with the sayings and that. But then that gives the opportunity for, you know, the LGBT community to be what they want to be, you know. And I think that's the difference, as in back then, I don't know, because like Rachel said, you know, we don't feel that, you know, as in we're not gay, basically. And I think people hid it more back then. But, you know, as times it evolved, like you say, we're in 2022, and it is becoming more that people can be who they want to be. They can be free and they can be who they want to be, you know. And it's not just about being gay. It's about, if you want red hair, you can have red hair. If you want to wear whatever clothes, you don't have to be in that category of, oh, I'm in fashion, I'm not in fashion. And it's good that, you know, that Jake at 17 couldn't think, yeah, you know, I want to come out because I want to be free and I want to be me.
I mean, I find it strange, because I definitely think my generation, there was a massive turning point. I remember really clearly when I were at school, this kind of, um, there wasn't, I guess what I'm trying to articulate is things were still very tough, but I remember really clearly at 16, 17, accepting that I was gay. I don't believe that, as I say, you come out, and the sort of social norms that were around me at the time as someone that, is effeminate, I suppose you could say, feeling this need to like amp up and act out and express and really push my sort of sexuality. And I get really sort of funny about it now. I had a friend who's like an influencer, you could say that, and she asked if I'd come on, and she does TikToks and things like that, and she asked if I'd come on and talk about coming out and my sexuality. And I said no, because, I don't see my sexuality as representing me. I see it as a part of who I am. And I just think, it might be that you might see me and think, oh, Mike's gay. But I don't look at people and think, oh, Kerry's straight, or Betty down the street is gay. That isn't how I look at people. That's just not the way I view the world. And I'm not saying that everybody views the world like that. I'm just saying that I do think my generation, as I say, at 16, 17, I were very lucky. I'd got lots of good friends around me. I'd got my family, a bit like Jake. He's saying, he's got these people to support him. I think that's what's really resonated with me, that there isn't, I'm 34 now. And to see a 17-year-old still sort of having to have the same conversations, 15 years plus on, it's just really saddening that things haven't moved on, because there's just so much more in the world, isn't there, happening? And I noticed Blackpool, they've done a big thing to support him in the football club of lighting up the tower in multiple colours, and that's brilliant, and it really is. But I just think it's a real shame that sportsmen, I mean, there we've got Tom Daley and we've got other sort of representatives out there at the moment, but in football itself, that, we've had to really get behind him and support him like this, because we should see him for his talent first. What do you think, Kerry?
No, I was just going to say, as talent, he's a footballer at the end of the day. He shouldn't make a blind bit of difference what sexuality is. He's a good footballer, isn't he? Seen some clips of him and that, and I think that's it. It shouldn't have any effect on his future prospects of moving forward in his career at all. It was we just touched on this, it was very hush-hush when I was younger. It was very rarely spoken about in any form, whether it's in school, out of school. And I suppose the only thing I can recollect is the bullying names that lads would call other lads. I can generally remember that. So and things were kind of brushed under and kept quiet. I think it has moved on, not as fast as it should have. Like you just said, 15 years on, and it's in this situation, but it's certainly moved on very slowly, too slowly. But I think your biggest thing there is support, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we know, don't we? I mean, obviously, I were a child of the 80s, so Margaret Thatcher had brought in her section, hadn't she, where it couldn't be discussed in any sort of topic in terms of education, etc., or literature. So schools were sort of prevented from talking about it. But I know, Claire, you work in schools now, and school is becoming a more diverse place, isn't it? And acceptance.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody's equal, no matter what nationality, what race, what colour or anything. And like I say, I work with the small children, in foundation, and we try and instill that at that age, because as they go up through the years, they need to know, what's right and what's wrong. So we try and do our best for that.
I mean, Rachel, what do you think in terms of making ourselves more approachable to the LGBT plus community? How can we do that?
How can we make it more approachable? Us make it more approachable.
Yeah. How can we make ourselves more approachable? How can we sort of evidence that acceptance?
Well, you see, I went to the LGBTQ Pride event last year, and I felt like I was a real outsider, because there were straight people there as well, but I felt so straight that it because they were just enjoying life, they're loving life, those people, families, and the same as me, as anybody, you know. I felt comfortable, yet I didn't know what I was talking about. I felt that I was going to go on the stage to promote the loose links, and I was the only one on stage that wasn't a member of the group as such, and I felt a bit left out. And I didn't want to come across as somebody who didn't know anything. But it wasn't because I didn't know anything. It was because I treated everybody the same. I didn't think that they should have a pride group like this to make everybody accept them. Because they should. Everybody, maybe I've got a utopia brain, I don't know. But I find that for somebody wanting to be accepted is so sad to comprehend, because
we should all be accepted, shouldn't we, for who we are? That's what you're trying to say. And do you know what I think as well, ladies? I don't mean to interject, but I'll address the elephant in the room as a gay man. I think there's so much red tape around people being confident to talk about matters relating to BAME communities or LGTB plus communities, because there's this fear of saying the wrong thing. And actually, Rachel, you're right. You know, we should just be, maybe we are living this sort of privileged view, because that's a term that's bandied around a lot. It's privileged because you don't know what it's like to experience this. Perhaps not, but if we do come, I think sometimes we put so much red tape in front of us, it's difficult to just simply communicate. You shouldn't have to think about talking to somebody, should you? As long as you're not offensive, it should be respectful, developmental-based relationships, which is attuned and conversational-based.
There's a lot more to a relationship than just sex.
Yeah.
The sexuality part of it. You know, you're human beings. You have a life.
Love.
Yes, of course. All of it.
And it's sad, isn't it? And I just really hope for Jake that, you know, there is no impact on his career, because there shouldn't be, should there? He should continue to be successful, and, you know, who knows, maybe he'll be the next David Beckham. I don't know, or maybe better. I'm not a football fanatic. I mean, I do remember myself when I were at school, and I often would think to myself, because I am a competitive person in nature, but I was always steered away from sports because I always felt sort of, to some degree, that I couldn't access it because I didn't represent that masculine, muscular, popular boy, if I'm honest with you, especially at school. I was, I'm fairly chubby now, but I was a little bit more chubbier and had this terrible type bleach bowl cut. I remember my mum, anyway, we'll not get into it. The slim shady look didn't look right. But, you know, and I always remember, I think I joined the rugby team and it's like a standard joke between me and my friends, for a couple of weeks. And I was dead excited. And I remember scoring, essentially, and I did a cartwheel on the pitch. So it was a little bit like, oh, God, Michael, what are you doing, really? I think they thought they'd got a cheerleader with them. But needless to say, I think I ended up doing the tuck shop for them in the long run, and we made a fortune in terms of the tuck shop. So anyway, we shall move on. So in terms of you as the fifth viewer, you know, come forward, give us your opinion. What do you think? Do you think Jake should experience any backlash from what he said, or do you think actually he should just be able to get on with his career and be successful? Remember, your opinion really counts. And what we also want to just sort of say to the community of Lincolnshire, that there are support services out there for anybody that is struggling with their mental health, or struggling to come to terms with accepting their sexuality. There is also 2 companies that we're going to advertise tonight. One is called Casey Counselling and can be found on the internet, and Gallup Age LGBT+. Please do come forward and seek support, because you are not alone. So, whilst we speak about not being alone, I want us to talk a little bit about our second topic tonight. And this is just such a sweet topic. So the topic is around 2 friends, and it's local Lincoln, a Roy Gelder and his friend John. And Roy, they've been separated. They were wartime friends, and they were separated as evacuees as children. For 77 years, they haven't seen one another. And they've recently done an interview with BBC, and I'm going to play you a short clip. And it's just incredibly moving. So let's watch and see.
Pleasure to see you.
I'm George. It's been a long time, hasn't it? Yeah. It's really been a long time. Quite about emotional. Quite, yeah. It brings all these horrible memories back again. Not joking, John.
No, I'll let you off.
I honestly never thought that this would happen.
No.
You know, it's something you don't even dream of.
I get a bit nervous about things, but now it's all happened. It's wonderful. I'm so pleased. It's better than I thought, this meeting. Much, much better.
Oh God, I could cry. Terrible when it comes to old people. How touching is that? I don't know if it's just because, you know, we've been through the pandemic and people haven't seen people and one thing and another, but I'm just so incredibly moved. I mean, what a beautiful, beautiful story.
Yeah, it was.
What's your thoughts and feelings?
6-year relationship, really, didn't they? 39, 45, and then 77 years apart. And I shouldn't think there's many of them that can do that.
I mean, I just think...
Sorry, Mike, can't even contemplate really, you know, what they were going through anyway. You know, all those years ago, being packed up onto a train and moving somewhere different, to then, you know, have a friend that you really connected with, but to be reunited after so long, like you say, we was watching that and how we felt. So I can just imagine, you know, that how they felt and how they would think that they would ever be reconnected. You know, 77 years is such a long time, but you know, they remembered each other, they never forgot each other, and it's just wonderful.
I just think with everything that's happening in the world, you know, we've all been separated from our friends, haven't we? We can all relate to what that feels like. But as you say, these tiny children that were packed away to rural Lincolnshire from the cities, you know, leaving the parents and the family. And we see it, don't we, with the Ukraine children. We see them coming over, and it just feels so, it's so touching. It really is. And it's so incredibly sad. Rachel, can you think of a time when you felt lost or alone?
Do you know, I was going to say, don't ask me that question. I wasn't quick enough. Not as a child. No, not as a child. It's getting a little bit boring now. I feel my life has changed over the last 3 or 4 years. So yeah, but so I can empathise now, because I still feel I'm a child inside. We've all got that element of ourselves. We don't think we're getting any older, and when you lose something that you've had for so many years and the norm, and I don't like change anyway. It can be difficult, but when we looked on the clip earlier, all the children being evacuated back in the Second World War on trains, they looked so happy. They looked happy. That looked like it was a fun thing. It looked like, but you see the trauma that's happening in Ukraine. they're traumatized, these children are. It looked completely a different type of, I don't know what would have been different. What would have been different with
I suppose back then, you know, in the war, you know, their parents were saying to them, look, you're going to be going to, you know, England, you're going to be going to a place, you know, so we'll sort it out here and then we'll come back to you. Whereas I think Ukraine, they know it was all falling around them, which, yes, it was for them in the war, but Ukraine people have got, a lot of them, nowhere to go, you know, so the faces probably of the children back then, it's like, oh, you know, it is an adventure, you know, we're going to this new place, you know, got people all around me, we're roughly my age, all these children, which again must have been hard, but again, as a child, you are quite resilient to things like that. But what's happening in the world today, I mean, how can we think when we look back 77 years ago to think, you know, what's happening now? It's just
times were different though, weren't they? They probably hadn't been on a train before. The excitement
no, that as well, yeah.
And media and TVs and things like that. Everything was probably much more of an adventure for them then. I don't know.
And you've got the war effort, hadn't you, in the Second World War? There was a lot of propaganda in our country that was designed to motivate people really and encourage them to partake and respond to the needs of the country. So I don't think they would have ever recorded children crying, but we know a lot of children experience, there's thousands of stories out there, isn't there, of children that experienced horrendous times during their evacuations, I should say, to the countryside. And, you know, it's so strange, isn't it, thinking for yourselves as Lincolnshire folk, I guess bar myself and Kerry really, that people would come to your area to stay as a place of safety. And I guess it does have, doesn't it, that much more rural effect. I mean, there are bigger parts, aren't there, like the city itself, which is very sort of cosmopolitan, if I can say that, or maybe that's just because I'm in a rural little town. You know, it does feel very sort of up there and upbeat. I mean, what about yourself, Claire? Do you think it's important to reach out to old friends like these two gents have and make amends?
Again, somebody put them in touch, didn't they? So, which was wonderful. I mean, reaching out to old friends is good. If you want to reach out to them, do you know what I'm saying? As in, these two are really good friends, and you know, they just sort of lost touch. But you know, nowadays, do you want to rekindle all your old friendships? It just depends on how good it was at the time. And, you know, you might have some good relationships now if you've got the time. Like, you know, like when Rachel said, or yourself, Mike, when you come on, is it another week again? You know, it's finding the time. So suppose when you are retired and that, if you found out that somebody who you went to school with wants to get in touch, then that's nice because you've probably got the time. Probably not the energy, but you've got the time to do that. And I think it is nice, but it doesn't always work, does it?
No. What about yourself, Kerry?
I think it's nice to get back in touch with old friends, to share nice memories. I wouldn't particularly want to get in touch with half the people through my childhood. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm just dead bitchy now. I wasn't when I was younger. I was dead quiet. So there's certain people that I wouldn't even contemplate or waste my time. I would with certain others because I've got fond memories of my certain friendships, and that's what it is. This is a lovely fond memory, you know. His family accepted him in and looked after him, didn't they? So it really depends on the person, and I don't like a lot of people, so I'm limiting myself on that question.
Kerry, if you don't mind me asking, where do you originally come from? Is it Liverpool itself?
Yeah.
So were you sort of city born and bred?
Was it what? City,
yeah, Liverpool.
Yeah.
So what was it like coming up to Lincolnshire when you moved up? Did it feel very different coming from a very big, busy city with lots of things happening?
Yeah, I found Lincoln, at first I found it very, very boring because it was so small, coming from a big city. Yeah. You know, there wasn't a great deal to do here, but I've been here a long time now, and Lincolnshire itself is just, it's beautiful, it's picturesque. I love driving, and you're in the middle of fields and countryside. I love just the difference. It's not a built up place. It's and it's changed a lot. It's changed a lot for me since I've been here. But I found it very hard to kind of, to leave and set up somewhere else. But, it doesn't stop you going back to where you come from or going back to visit people, especially while you're a bit younger. You're able to do that, aren't you? But I mean, come on. I mean, I'll go back to how different was it in Liverpool, in the Liverpool Echo. You'd have, there's been a someone beaten up, or there's been a stabbing or a shooting. And when I come to Lincoln, and I shouldn't laugh, but it's funny. What made headline news, and I remember this over 10 years ago, it was that there was a swan on the train tracks and they had to stop the trains. And I was just like, this is just lovely, isn't it? There's just like nothing. It's nothing like a big city.
It's got worse now. It's because all you people from Liverpool have come up here. Come down.
I brought them all with me. That's what it is, Rachel. Do you know what I mean? I brought all the scallies with me.
And what about yourself, Rachel and Claire? Kerry's just sort of touched on it, what it's like to leave all that you know and start something new. Have you two ever experienced anything like that? Maybe not just moving, but anything really, a job, a partner, or a friend where you've just walked away from someone you've always known and thought, wow, a complete start afresh. Anyone jump in?
Well, yeah, I lived in Newark, and then a job came about in Mansfield, and
wow!
At the time, my mum was then moving to Lincoln. So from being in the middle, my mum went there and I went there, and I was on my own. I got a new job as a manager. Sounds good, KFC, and I loved it. It was the first drive-through in Mansfield, which I opened. But it was that moving. I was on my own. I've worked in KFC. I had worked there for a long time, and it was really quite nerve-wracking to then leaving because I was pregnant, to not work for such a long time, to look after the children. And then I had my first interview at nearly 50 for the job that I'm in now. Never had an interview in my life, never even for the first. I've only ever had 2 jobs. And oh my gosh, I was so nerve-wracking, in front of the head and all those doing that. And I got the job. And I think, at nearly whatever age I am, 21 times 2 plus. It's lovely. I've found my niche, I'm with 3 and 4 year olds, and I think, like what Rachel said, the inner self is an inner child, and I love it, and I get called mad, crazy lady, and I went, but why not? Would you either have somebody who's straight-laced and everything, or me? But yeah, it's really, from going from one to the other. And then, of course, many a time I would, when I had my son, I would travel to Lincoln to see my mum. And like you say, the difference between the 3, they're all nice. Well, in some ways. I mean, Newark itself's lovely because it's got the history, but Lincoln's the countryside and that it's beautiful.
Well, thank you for that, Claire. It's useful. Well, viewers, have your say. Come and tell us, what is it really like to start afresh somewhere new, and what excitement can that bring? So, ladies, our next topic tonight is going to involve a guest speaker who I'm going to admit shortly. So just to tell you a little bit about her, she's Bradford born and bred. She's as Yorkshire as they come, so I know she's not from Lincoln herself, but she's an actress that's been on theatre. She's done the theatre stage, she's gone the way through to TV, and she's recently been in our cinemas. So without any further delay, I'm going to admit the lovely Natalie Davies into our show. She's just joining now. Hello, Natalie. I think your camera's off. Don't know if she can see us. Hello. Good evening, Natalie. It's lovely to see you.
Hello. Nice to meet you all. You all right?
Yes, we're very well, thank you. Can you see us all, Natalie?
I can indeed. Don't mind me. I've just been to ice because you've got to keep on top of that.
So Natalie, I'm just going to very quickly introduce you to our lovely panel this evening. And then what we're going to do, if you don't mind, I'm going to play the full English trailer for your show, which you've come to speak to us a little bit about tonight, which we're really, really excited to hear a little bit about. So you obviously know me, Natalie. We know each other from old. So Claire, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm the mad one. My name's Claire. I'm 54. No, I'm not actually. I am in August. I work in a school with children. I've got 2 children of my own, and yeah, I'm a bit crazy.
Kerry?
Hi, I'm Kerry. I'm just part of the Loose Links family. Occasionally show me face on here.
And last but not least, our lovely Rachel.
Hi there. I'm Rachel Penny. I'm always dragged on here when nobody else can get in. And I'm usually the oldest.
There we are.
And the wisest, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yes.
Always. So Natalie, without any further delay, we're really excited to show our viewers this fantastic piece of theatre, and we've spoken a little bit about its meaning and the love that's been put into the show. And after we've watched the clip, we're going to spend some time talking to you a little bit about that and understanding it. So we're just going now.
What are you? No, but what are you really? You're not full English, are you?
Full English is a true story. It's a story of Natalie, who's in the show and is the associate artist of the company for this project. And it's about her exploring her own mixed race heritage. And in doing so, it tells the story of her grandmother, Nan, and how her Nan fell in love with someone who'd come from Pakistan to work in the mills back in the 60s.
My nan has been somebody who's been there my entire life, but also somebody who I've supported with her mental health. She needed somebody there quite a lot, but at the same time we had this unique bond that I've never had with anybody else.
So I play a character called Sahel. His storyline is similar to what my dad went through, because my dad was first generation from the sub-Indian continent, but you've got the story of, dual heritage characters, you've got the story of first generation British, Asians, and also white working class.
Weak at the knees.
G.
Wet behind the ears.
There's a part where me and Sahel meet and we go to Manningham for the first time, and I see all the colour of Manningham, the tunics, the spices, and we do a dance, and I think that encapsulates just what she Kath's feeling at that time, this sort of whirlwind romance, this Romeo and Juliet feeling that she has.
What a touching, beautiful, warm, heartbreaking at times, something I could kind of really relate to, that British Asian experience, and it was really lovely to hear my own language in a play.
Bradford's a place for eccentrics and outsiders and people escaping, and that's what the play was about. It's very personal, it's very local, but it's absolutely universal.
I think the story is one to be told and one to be heard.
The use of the projection and shadows, and that really made you feel like you were inside the room.
People are living with mixed race heritage and still struggling with their identity, still trying to find a place, still asking the question, well, I'm not that and I'm not that, so who am I?
And it dawned on me that I've spent my entire life wishing I was that. Full English. But who could be more English, more Bradford than me?
So Natalie, wow. I don't know where to begin. I've been and seen the show. It's stunning. It's beautiful. You know, it was. I found it very emotional as an audience member. And for our viewers, this covers so many different. It's so multifaceted in its approach, and it's a true story, which makes it more powerful. I mean, Natalie, your nan and her reggae love and her dance, her ability to enjoy dance and music. I mean, talk to us, tell our viewers, tell us a little bit about the show itself. How did you come to expose this fantastic story?
So it was actually inspired because I'm a working actor, I'm a jobbing actor, and I had an audition for something for a different film that's actually come out called Ali and Ava. It's actually just come out on Netflix actually, but it was in the cinemas quite recent, and it's gone straight to Netflix now because the director interviewed my mum. And so I think it's really important for me to kind of share that both of my parents are mixed race. And it was the first time that I'd been approached where they wanted to interview my mum because she was in her 50s and mixed race. And in terms of representation on a screen, that's not been done before in terms of South Asian mixed race. And it was literally from the director meeting my mum and my mum sharing her upbringing in her life and her kind of taking that away and being like, oh, wow, that's a really fascinating story. And then she didn't actually make the character mixed race. And then I sat there and I remember receiving the news of her not using my mum's kind of background for inspiration for this character. And then I went, hang on a minute. I'm an actor, yes, but I also have a story and I need to tell that story, not obviously give it to somebody else. So that's basically where it came from. I just had my daughter Thea and I was in and out of work and I just didn't have anything really to focus on. But up until that point, I'd never, as an artist, as an actor, had the inspiration to actually create my own work. And this was the first time in my life where I thought, no, I'm going to, because I now understand to a different level what my nan went through, bringing up these mixed race kids on her own. When you become a mother, it was just a game changer for me. And that's basically the inspiration. Yeah.
I mean, in terms of the themes that are discussed in the show, Natalie, I mean, you speak about it in the trailer.
Yeah.
There's lots of different themes, isn't there, from the experiences that your nan experienced in terms of racism, through to mental health, through to social deprivation, social care intervention. It's really multifaceted show. And I guess for myself, I'm just really curious, and for our viewers, was there any kind of element of the show that really transformed you as a person in sharing that experience? Is there anything that really stood out?
I think the whole process did, but I think actually just taking time to actually understand and realise the struggle that my nan went through in, having 3 mixed race children and being a white woman and bringing up these kids on her own, and actually the strength and the courage that took for her to do that. And, because I've known her since I was born, but then, a whole lifetime had passed, she'd gone through all of that. And she was actually, when I was born, she was on her own, because she did have relationships after, but she'd got to a point in her life where she used to tell me the story and actually be able to kind of share it in a way that it wasn't too difficult for her anymore. It was like, no, this happened to me, but she still loved him, even though he left. That's the thing about, my mum and me uncles, is they don't know where their dad went. He never came back, but they were living with this identity of looking Pakistani, but actually the mother was white and they were brought up white. And that's the whole thing. It's like, but as when you look at somebody, you don't think that, you just think of what you see. And that in itself is so complex. And for me, nan, to kind of look back and still have that love for him, because it was love. And it was literally just down to the fact that his family wanted him to marry another Pakistani woman. And that was it. But what's so wonderful about my nan, because my nan's living with dementia now, as obviously we speak about in the trailer, and she still hasn't lost her sense of identity in terms of how proud she is to have mixed race children, to a point now, because her dementia is really far on now. But when she sees a brown man, her face just changes, because she just engages, and it's just that instant connection that she has. It's just quite beautiful, actually, and how proud she still is of having mixed race children. So yeah.
Claire, I believe you've got a question for Natalie tonight.
I have, Natalie. I read that you won Best Production in 2021 at the Asian Media Awards. What was it like to experience this?
It was so overwhelming to have a show called Full English win an Asian Media Award. Speaks itself, really. I was in shock, because every other show was, it was full South Asia. I don't know how to articulate this, but it wasn't, somebody talking about having brown skin but being brought up white, and but celebrating, and also it being that it felt like in that room that night when we won it, because it was very overwhelming. I was so emotional, but it was so nice to feel supported and accepted, and just this thing of you're constantly saying, because people always ask me, which side do you go towards against? I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. But the amount of times that people are like, so are you a Muslim, or are you more, what in terms of culture, how do you live your life? Can you speak Urdu? And it's this facet. Can you make a curry? It's like all of this that it is so complex, and it just kind of feeds into it. And to stand in that room that night and to win an Asian Media Award, it was just sensational, and I'll never forget it. And just the support and the love in the room of how important they said it was that I told this story for both sides. So yeah.
We've been talking tonight, Natalie, earlier in the show about Jake Daniels and obviously as a footballer and coming out and that acceptance side of things. And it's a similar theme, isn't it, about what you're saying, that we do still as a nation have so far to come when we look at equality and diversity. But I won't go on because I've ranted for the first 35 minutes about that. So Rachel, I believe you've got something to ask our lovely Natalie. We're full of questions tonight, Natalie.
Yes, well, I've just discovered hull raisers, and I thought it was hilarious.
Thank you.
I didn't know it existed until I was pointed at. So I don't watch TV, but I'm going to be carrying on watching it now. But what are the differences between stage and TV that you've found?
It's just the way it's constructed is just entirely different in terms of the rehearsal process, really. In terms of characterization and, you embodying a character, there's not much difference, because you're being, and you should always feel like you are that character in the space, whether that's obviously in terms of your performance, it's, it's kind of, it's, what's the word? Minimized in terms of, obviously you've got a screen in front of your face. But in terms of just being real and encapsulating the realness of the character, there's not much difference, really. But obviously with TV I get to play really young characters, which is always fun, because it just means I get to 16-year-old.
You can empathise a lot because it's your story, and you can make it real because it is you, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I'm very lucky in respect of that, because I do radio as well. I've done radio. I did 2 shows for the BBC Radio 4, one with David Jason at the beginning of the year. And that in itself as well is a fantastic art form that I've never experienced before. It's only literally in December I did my first radio play. The focus on voice, that for me as an actor was amazing. It was an amazing experience just to kind of listen to the voice and how you can connect with somebody else just through the voice. So yeah, I'm very lucky because I do get to do all of the forms, which grateful for.
Well done.
Harry?
Well, hi Natalie, you all right?
Hi, nice to meet you.
So I suppose after the 2 projects that you have done with Hull Raisers and the Full English, are you involved in any upcoming projects that we might see you in soon at all, TV or theatre?
Yes, I can't say the name yet because press needs to go out and I've signed an NDA. But I am filming right now for a big series. So yeah, watch this space.
Exciting news, isn't it, Natalie? You know, and I just think it's obviously this is a Lincolnshire show and a local community-based show, but you know, for all of our viewers, there are a number of shows in terms of the Full English that are fairly close. It's just a little step over the water. So you've got Doncaster that's coming up, and we've also got Harrogate and Lancaster and Scarborough, and I really would recommend going through. I know, Natalie, you're not going to be in all of the shows, but it's still your life story, isn't it?
It is, yes. This is a thing about, you know, the world of in this industry. You know, you put your own show out there and then you get cast in one of the biggest shows that's going to come out. So it's just one of those things, and you just make it all work. But what's wonderful is I've got a really fantastic actress playing me who is also mixed race, and I think it's, again, you know, like I spoke about earlier in terms of that representation. You get a lot of mixed race Black actors on screen, but not enough mixed race South Asian. And for me, that's what it's about. It's about opening them opportunities. So yeah, super excited to share the time with somebody else.
That brings us on to, Natalie, really kind of our final sort of question we wanted to ask you tonight, really, which is about representation and positive role models. And we've had a lot of discussions on this show over the last couple of weeks about, we're going to use the term celebrities, but let's just say people that work in acting careers, footballers, etc., and how you do when you are in the public eye line as yourself, and you have been in previous projects, the pressure that can come to that in terms of being a positive role model. And I know that you celebrate, and absolutely rightly so, your own identity and your culture, and you immerse that into your work, and you do that with such beauty and grace. But what advice would you give to actors of any age in the North? Because I know you really celebrate the fact that you're a North-based actress, and I know that you've recently, as our fans may see on your Twitter account, your special Twitter account, announced the big thing about you don't have to be in London to be successful. And I'm just curious, what advice would you give actors starting out in the North at the moment? Because your whole career did start in the North, didn't it? And you have done work in the South, but you're a very proud North actress. I will stop waffling and hand back to yourself.
I think just be true to you, really. Like, if you are so proud of where you are from and your roots, and that's what defines you as a performer, then stick to it. It's difficult. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it's really easy to be an actor in the North, because it's not. Like, in terms of castings, you know, before the pandemic, it used to be that a lot of times you were traveling down to London. But it's just changed. The pandemic, because of Zoom, look what we're doing right now. You know, it's changed the whole industry. The last 2 projects I've done, I've been able to sit here on Zoom and audition. So for me, that's just opening it up to everybody else. So I think having that information and knowing that actually most things are getting cast on Zoom is kind of like, well, you don't need to be an absolute massive debt, you know, and go to London and make it as an actor, because that's really dated now. It's about really owning who you are, but also, yeah, we're just living in a completely different world. I just think the internet just, you know, has opened a massive door for everybody. So just keep at it. But it's not an overnight success, and I think that's it. It's like, I'm really grateful for my opportunities now, but it's took a long time. Like, it's not, you know, I've worked in lots of different shows, but it's not been that I've gone back, you know, back to back. You have gaps where you have no work, and you've got to, you know, utilize your skills. I'm, you know, a drama facilitator. I do baby raves. You know, I share my skills, and I think actually having this success now and having a daughter to share that with is just something that, I think I'm enjoying it more now, because I understand actually the struggle it's been to get here.
And
but don't give up. I think that's it. Just don't give up.
And I think in some of the research we've done, Natalie, before you've come on tonight, I know you are quite a humble person in some ways. You've actually done what I would call some social psychological educational work in your early career, and you know, we all discuss on this web show our backgrounds and our experiences and where we come from. And I've never hidden that for a number of years I've worked in child protection, and I'm very aware of some of your work that you've done in terms of the promotion of child sexual exploitation. You know, what was that like, being able to be for our viewers to explain? I'd accessed some training a number of years ago, and I wasn't aware that Natalie was involved in this project, and they played to various professionals, police, social workers, teachers, like an educational clip to educate children on the dangers of it. And it was fascinating, really, because obviously to see somebody that I am aware of just pop up on the screen and not obviously say anything, but listen to what professionals were saying around the room of how she sort of really embedded that character and really gave it justice. And I'm just curious, Natalie, how did you find, because you've got such a diverse scope, haven't you? You know, we've touched a little bit on it, theatre and TV. How did you find that experience? I know it's been some time ago, but it's still used now, isn't it?
It is still used now, and it's called Sick Parties, the short film, and it was created in response to, it was just after the Jimmy Savile stuff came out. So, and also the Rochdale, you know, all of the cases that were happening in 2012, 2013. And I'd literally just gone for this audition, and I never thought it'd be what it was. And it was this short film raising awareness about sex exploitation in young girls and how easy it is to be groomed. And for me, it was because the whole thing was completely improvised. So the director set up this scenario and we just had to kind of respond. And it's still used now. Like, I do role play for the police still, and they say, "Oh God, we still use that right now." And for me, it's important that, you know, when you put work out there that is for, you know, impacting change, social change, you know, and is impacting in people's lives. Because I got to actually meet survivors of CSE, and it was very overwhelming. But yeah, I think it's just something proud to be part of. And I think if you can do that, if you can implement change in your work, I think it's a winner, really, isn't it? So
yes. Well, thank you for coming along and seeing us tonight. And I'd like to stay on for us just to say goodbye to our viewers this evening. And I would just like to say to our viewers that in terms of the polls from last week's discussion, they'll be made readily available online in the next 24 hours. And there'll also be a short video clip from Nick himself as he looks to return next week. I'll be quite glad to give this role back to him, our normal chair who sits in to do this small show. I'd like to say a big thank you to Natalie for coming on and joining us tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here, and I'm sure the ladies will agree with me. And I'd also like to say a big shout out and a big thank you to Kerry, Claire and Rachel for coming on panel with me, and we will see you all next week.
Thank you.